Joining us tonight in our Thursday webinar series is Karla Knoefpli, the State 4-H Volunteer Coordinator, and she's going to be doing part 2 of our continuing education series, identifying things that people know, parents and volunteers, to get started. 6 through 10, we're going to be talking about risks and liability this evening. So thank you so much, Karla, for joining us tonight.
Well, you're welcome. I'm going to paste a URL link here in the chat box so that folks can find the things I'm talking about tonight on the 4-H webpage. I made sure everything was up and working today. So in the URL, in the chat box is the hyperlink to get to a lot of the materials I'll be talking about this evening. So tonight we're continuing our 4-H 101.2 tonight, and we're going to talk about of the 10 things you really need to know. We're going to do 6 through 10. And tonight's session will be a little bit heavier than the previous session because we're talking a lot about the risk management part of the 4-H program. But this is also extremely important to our organization. So let's start out with the volunteer protection. The Oklahoma Governmental Tort Claims Act provides our certified volunteers a limited level of protection. This legislation provides protection for personal liability when the 4-H volunteer is functioning on behalf of Oklahoma State University and they're within the realm and scope of their written position description. The certified volunteers are seen as acting on a permanent basis without being compensated. Episodic volunteers are those that are acting on our behalf on a temporary basis. Because an episodic volunteer does not have the training or continuing education provided by the Extension Service, they are not viewed as a sanctioned volunteer who can have unsupervised contact with youth. Episodic volunteers must be supervised by the Extension staff or certified volunteers, and they must be provided a written position description that describes their role and responsibility, and they need to be provided adult form number 5, which is the university's risk and liability waiver. Risk management. These are the things that we can control as volunteers. Participant has to, you as the adult participant has sufficient training. You ask for specific information regarding their responsibilities and expectations when you're supervising minors. You always act sensibly. This means to act within the foresight and practicing discretion by avoiding or lessening any potential for error or damage. You're going to reduce risk by asking, does this risk have the potential to occur frequently with relatively small losses or limited accidents? Is the action an infrequent risk, which may incur small losses or limited accidents? If the answer to those is yes, then it's okay. Is this a risk to avoid because it was identified prior to the activity and a decision is made to eliminate that risk? Or is a decision made to proceed with the activity, or is the decision made not to proceed with the activity because of the risk? Eliminating activities from our program is not the best way to prevent legal action. Just make sure your activities are appropriate to the needs and abilities of the people you are trying to serve, and all possible risks are eliminated or reasonable steps are in place to reduce the risks and for accidents. What you want to do to avoid the situations of negligence, it's our duty and responsibility to the participants, the spectators, passerbyers, and those being invited that we provide a safe environment. We need to anticipate and have a plan. We need to communicate that plan with the members, the parents, and the county office. We need to always make sure that we have a copy of Form number 8, which is our 4-H incident and accident report, and we need to make sure that it is completed and filed within 3 days of the accident or the incident. I'm going to cover insurance more in depth in just a few minutes. There are a variety of forms necessary for managing 4-H programs. Those that I'm about to review are located in several places on the 4-H homepage, one under events and activities, as well as under parents and volunteers. The hyperlink or that I provided tonight in the chat box is connected to the parent volunteer page, and you click on the box that says risk management. Let's first talk about the enrollment form, whether it's paper or online. It's extremely important that we as volunteers and parents that we understand that it's illegal for anyone other than a legal guardian of a child to sign that enrollment. That includes typing in the name as an electronic signature in the enrollment form online. Form number 1 is our youth participation form, and all of this information is housed in the 4-H enrollment system. This includes the health form, prescriptions, code of conduct, the release of liability and risk. If a family is managing the health form online, the family and the extension office can print the form anytime they need it. The family can quickly update the form by logging into the family profile, which will save a lot of time. As a volunteer, I encourage you to ask the extension office to print a list of youth who have allergies, dietary needs, physical, behavioral, or mental health conditions that would limit participation in normal projects and activities, as well as any medical assistance needs. It's also important to note that the family's directions regarding over-the-counter medications and prescription medications, and that as a best practice, we encourage club leaders to have a copy of the health form at all club meetings because you just never know when you might need it. For the enrollment authorizations number 2 and 3, I also encourage you to ask the extension office for a list of the youth with any restrictions. It's our responsibility to be aware and respect the family's wishes when it comes to electronic communications with the youth or putting their name or face out there in public information. As for adults, we also respect their wishes in regards to the publicity release. The extension office can also provide that information for volunteers in your club. The adult health form, which is number 4, is also part of the enrollment system, and it can be handled exactly the same as you do for youth. As a rule, if youth need a health form for an activity or event, then adults need a health form for an activity or event. Form number 5 is for use with non-certified volunteers. It's the university's release of risk and liability and the publicity release. This is used with episodic volunteers, a person who of his or her own choice gives of his or her service without any express or implied promise or expectation of payment or compensation, and is not a certified 4-H volunteer. Who might be an episodic volunteer? It could be judges, parents, speakers, or an instructor involved in a 4-H meeting or activity. Form number 7 is the activity and event intent form. It's to be used by the club or a project group doing anything outside of a regularly scheduled club meeting. This is the who, what, where, when, and how of program planning. The process allows the group to think through the potential risks and how to reduce and avoid them. It includes the crisis management plan Extension expects our volunteers to follow. The form should be filed with the Extension office prior to the activity. Form number 8 is for reporting incidents and accidents that occur as part of a 4-H club meeting, workshop, camp, workout, practice, field trip, trail ride, anything that we might be sponsoring. Make it common practice to have the form on hand. This form is to be used by both the Extension educator and the volunteer. The person in charge of the activity or event is the one responsible for filling it out and filing the form within 3 days with the Extension office. Transportation best practices are in place both to protect our members, parents, volunteers, and staff. Oklahoma State University and the Oklahoma 4-H program has no ownership or control over any privately owned vehicle and rely on those drivers to comply with state law and 4-H policy and procedure. Anyone transporting youth must have a valid driver's license, liability insurance, a vehicle in good repair, and 1 functioning seat belt per passenger. Drivers transporting youth for a sanctioned 4-H event need a current copy of each child's medical form in the vehicle during transportation. And that's so that if an accident occurs, that material is with the driver. Parents or guardians are responsible for providing transportation or making other arrangements for the transportation of their child. When someone other than the parent or guardian assumes responsibility for the child, understand 1, this is done at the pleasure and discretion of the parents. 2, all parents should be made aware of personal liability responsibility. And 3, parents or guardians of both drivers and passengers should agree about the consent, and a signed parental release letter or statement is an added safeguard. Occasionally, parents may desire teens to travel and carpool to an event. Parents assume responsibility when allowing youth to travel together. When youth drive their personal or a family vehicle to a 4-H event, they are expected to park and not use the vehicle during the event. By using the vehicle, they may be in violation of the Oklahoma 4-H Code of Conduct and may forfeit future rights to participate in 4-H activities. Let's look at number 9, and that's the chaperone. We do have position descriptions available for chaperones as well as for those who are going to be transporting youth, and all of those position descriptions can be found on the parent volunteer site on the 4-H website when you click on risk management. As a chaperone, you're going to identify and reduce opportunities for risk and to avoid situations of negligence. You want to be sure there's insurance for that activity or event. You want to have a copy of the child's medical form for quick accessibility. To the greatest degree possible, avoid transporting one child, regardless of age or gender, without having another adult or another child in the car. Do not leave children alone at a meeting site. An adult should be present until the last child is picked up. And reduce the need or eliminate placing youth and adults in the same sleeping quarters or sharing bathroom facilities if you are chaperoning. And then I left the best for last, insurance. The Oklahoma Group Activities Accident Policy is an accident policy. It has limited protection for accidents and injuries. Only those enrolled in 4-H or registered for a 4-H event are covered by any of the American Income Life policies. The group policy does not cover illness or property that includes but is not limited to facilities, the animal, tack, equipment, etc. The annual club coverage is provided to all enrolled 4-H members, Cloverbuds, and certified volunteers. The coverage is in place from September 1 to August 31st each year. The purchased annual club coverage policy is intended for local 4-H clubs and county activities. Special activity insurance is recommended for the following events: overnight activities, camp, day camp, field trips, or high-risk activities. It's important that you understand that the annual club coverage does not cover illness, where the special activity insurance plans B and C do cover illness. One of the questions that Chris and I asked American Income Life was protection for volunteers who let a youth ride a horse on their property. So first of all, Oklahoma guidelines, the group policy is only going to apply to a sanctioned or organized 4-H event, meaning a regularly scheduled meeting or an extracurricular activity taking place outside the regularly scheduled meeting. Be sure that Form 7 is being filed with the Extension Office. So that would include trail rides, play days, tours, etc. American Income Life provided us the following answer. What we advise as a best practice, because our policy doesn't provide any coverage for personal property, and while we don't restrict the policy coverage by location, it would not 100% guarantee if a major accident occurred and all bills were not covered by our policy. The injured party may still be able to file suit against the homeowner. Now, the special activity coverage, if you're wanting to purchase that for something your club is doing, again, on the parent volunteer location on the website, go to risk management, and all of the American Income Life stuff is listed right there for you. The link to their site, as well as forms and instructions that will help you out. American Income Life, we asked them a little bit more about the special activities policy. It can cover all of those involved in the operation of event. So this is your special activity coverage. It can cover all those involved in the operation of an event. So that would include participants, judges, and parents who are helping out in some way. It excludes anyone who is a spectator only. And the example they provide is for a horse show. The youth exhibitors, judges, ringmasters, people handing out ribbons, and parents helping with handling and unloading trailers and tack are covered. But grandma, who just comes to sit in the audience, is not going to be covered by the policy. The parents, siblings, extended family, and friends who are just hanging out and watching are not covered by special activity policy. There can be some gray areas and some confusion about it, who is covered in the different types of events. So American Income Life encourages you to always make contact with them and ask them. Another question we posed to American Income Life: if Oklahoma has the group activity accident insurance, why would there be a need for the special activity coverage? And their reply, the Oklahoma statewide policy covers all 4-H members at adult supervised group activities as part of their 4-H experience. But there are a few exclusions and times when we recommend getting additional special activity coverage. If you elect special activity coverage, you have to cover all participants in the given event, not just the non-4-H members. They provided us a flow chart that is very helpful in you trying to outline and determine when special event activity coverage is needed or recommended, and I have that posted on the website. We ask another question: if the organization has both types of insurance, which policy would the organization or group file toward? The reply from American Income Life: our policy limits do not stack, so just one would pay out, but you would be able to choose which policy to file under depending on the severity of the accident or the type of claim. So filing on your American Income Life claim, in the event you need to do that, make sure that you have filled out that form number 8, because every question that's on that form, American Income Life is going to ask for you to submit a claim. Make sure you've provided that form number 8 to the extension office, and they can help you get started in the process of filing the claim. There's been questions about homeowner policies. Per our risk management practices, volunteers are responsible for checking with their insurance agent in regard to accident and liability coverage when hosting an activity in their home or on their personal property. Leasing and loaning animals, we ask that of American Income Life. If someone loans or leases or lets someone borrow a horse to ride at a 4-H meeting, workshop, or function, would the youth be covered by the activity insurance? American Income Life replied, we don't have restrictions on using borrowed or even leased animals for 4-H meetings and projects. If the youth is an enrolled 4-H member who is participating in a scheduled 4-H program or meeting, then they would be covered for accidents. Non-4-Hers would be able to be covered if special activities policy was taken out for that particular day. The horse itself would not be covered. Now, as for our Oklahoma Certificate of Self-Insurance, it's important that you understand that this is liability coverage for meetings held in other locations. Oklahoma State University, through the state of Oklahoma, holds a certificate of self-insurance that volunteers who function within the realm and scope of their duties as outlined in their position description, they're going to be covered. That's why position descriptions are so important to our program, including position descriptions for an episodic volunteer. There's a significant deductible associated with the claim. It provides no direct insurance for the volunteer, member, or extension educator. The coverage is only of the value in protecting them in case of damages caused by another, so basically being sued. So at this point, I'm open for any questions that we might have if anyone's out there with us live.
Karla, I actually have questions.
I hope I can answer them.
Yeah, so the episodic volunteer, that's somebody that just, or was there another term for the person that you just get to come out to help you for like a horse clinic? Is that the episodic volunteer? Or the non-certified?
So ask that one more time.
So if I just had a horse trainer come out to help at a club event, that's the non-certified volunteer?
Correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
they have not gone through our background check, the training. They're not enrolled in 4-H. That would be our episodic volunteer. It could be a parent that we've recruited to hand out ribbons or take care of the gate. That would be an episodic volunteer.
Okay. So I'm thinking about this, my episodic volunteer, that paperwork is saying that that person or the university is not liable for that person, correct? It doesn't help that person from liability.
One more time. Say it for me one more time.
So I'm thinking about okay, so let's say I have a horse trainer come in, and he is that episodic volunteer. Well, there's that form, I don't remember the number.
Form number 5.
Okay, form number 5. So if they fill that out, and that's what we're supposed to do, that prevents, and let me make sure that I've got this straight, that prevents the university from getting sued, right? Or OSU, the entity. It doesn't help that person, right? They still have personal liability?
Correct.
Okay, that's good to know.
It's the university's official stance on risk and liability.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're just waiving their right to come after the university.
Yeah. I think if you would go and read form number 5, it's pretty simple.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the special activities insurance, what is the cost for that?
It's I think I must have missed looking that in my notes. There's policy A, B, and C, and it's 20 cents, 25 cents, and 30 cents per day per person.
So pretty reasonable then. Really.
Yes, it's very reasonable.
And that can be paid out of club funds.
Yes, and especially because of the illness. The $1 policy that we buy out of program fees is not going to take care of somebody who gets sick at something. It's only for accidents. So the special accident insurance, if you do B like boy or C cat, 25 cents or 30 cents per person per day, if they get sick, it's going to help you take care of that.
Okay. Okay. So the scheduled activity, it sounds like if somebody's having a play date or just a monthly riding event or something at their house, their best bet is actually to have that special activities thing filled out and recorded, and to think
correct.
About
yes, purchase that insurance. Yes, okay. That's correct.
Okay, so that's pretty good advice. Then my other question, I guess, so my job and my position, being in the equine world, is to be able to identify that risk. But I don't know that I would expect every volunteer to view the world as perhaps that I do, with visualizing all of the risks that can happen. So what is it actually reaching out to their state specialist in that area to help identify those? Or how does a normal volunteer think through that process of minimizing risks? Again, because something I might say, oh yeah, I saw that as a risk. What if that didn't occur to them?
I think that's a very good point. Part of it comes with experience. Mm-hmm. Okay, so a lot of this kind of thing comes with experience. So for someone who's a new volunteer and planning something, I first would recommend working with their county educator. Okay, I would also encourage them, if they have a volunteer, a veteran volunteer that's helped with play days or woolly events or whatever, that they sit down and they talk with them and help, because that person's going to help them be able to think through the whole process. Because part of it is literally visualizing the event from the beginning to the end of what are potential risks that could happen. It's visiting that site and looking for potential risks. Okay. Sure. What is something we need to reduce or minimize? If you've got them coming to your house to ride, do you have things that, typically you're used to them laying around, but when you look at them from the eyes of someone else and how someone might fall, trip, it could fall over and scare a horse, then, oh, maybe we need to move that stuff out of sight, out of the way, because people are going to be around the arena, and we don't want that to happen. So visit with your county educator, visit with a veteran volunteer, visit with Chris, find someone that's used to thinking from beginning to end and what are those potential risks.
So how would it, if somebody, I've gotten contacted by lots of people that are kind of thinking about being a volunteer. How did they find a veteran volunteer?
To help mentor them?
Yes.
Okay.
Or like like years of service?
No. But yes, we do have, we can pull those who are still in our system as active volunteers. Sure, we can see we've got people with 30 years of experience. Okay. It might not be in horses, but yes, we could access some of that information. I think one of the best ways to do that is participating in trainings. I know that was funny. Participating.
He's got something.
That is participating in continuing education that your county has, the district has, the state has, participating in these kind of webinars, because that's how you start to expand your field of contacts, and you start to find out who does have that experience, who can be a good mentor, who might not be a good mentor, because there are some people you don't want to follow their practices. So by being involved and listening and making contact with parents and other volunteers in the county office, or a neighboring county in this situation with a horse program that has a really good, long-standing, healthy horse program, they're going to have folks. And I can tell you, anybody who's volunteering, heart's into it, mm-hmm. and anyone who's passionate about horses like your folks are going to be, there are people who are going to want to help other volunteers be successful, because it's all about those kids having a good experience.
Okay. So since I saw a comment, do you have any guidance, I guess? Again, I tend to see things as a lot of risk and liability, and some of our veteran people would see it as well. And not everybody has that same perspective, and certainly kids don't, right? Kids are like, we all ride 3 people bareback with a halter. So, and I would be like,
and no helmet.
Right. So do you have any advice, or is that something that comes up in some of the leader conferences on how to navigate those waters where, as a volunteer, you're trying to minimize risk for youth and liability, and sometimes you get pushback, maybe even from other parents or other volunteers that are not as safety conscious?
With that, as a representative of our program and a certified volunteer, one of their primary responsibilities, first and foremost, is providing a safe environment. Okay. And so if there are parents or youth who do not want to follow the rules, then it's their choice, and they're making that choice. If I don't want to follow the rules and the guidelines, then it's my choice not to participate.
Okay, so you would just...
Okay, you can participate. Yeah. Okay. You can participate, but you need to follow the rules and guidelines, because you are here as a 4-H member. This is a 4-H event. We have 4-H rules and guidelines, and we will follow them. And if you choose not to do that, then it's your choice as a family or a child to not participate in this particular event.
Okay, I like that. That's a good way. If they don't want to follow the rules, that's their option.
That's their choice, but that means you can't be at this event. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that was helpful. And I know, one other thing that I was thinking as we went through this, and then I'll let you go because it is nighttime. I almost thought like having, not that I want to ever add work to anybody, but almost having an event, little button, and then you click on it, here's all the things, like a resource guide for, I need this form, this form, this form. And I know they're there and everywhere, but sometimes it's always like, where do I look? So that might be something kind of useful. And maybe even I should put that together and put it somewhere on my website as well. Like,
Okay.
event, here's your things.
Our red button.
Yeah, almost. I mean, I think because when you start saying all these form numbers, I don't know that I like.
Yeah. Well, since we still got on in your recording, let me just go over here real quick and show on the web page, okay? So
yeah, I'm still recording. I've got
hold on, just
interested. So
do what?
I said I have some people I think that might be interested in just where these things are. So including.
Okay, so yeah, let me get this brought up real quick here. The internet's being a little sluggish, so okay, so new share. All right, so can you see the web page?
Yep.
Okay. So when you're on the 4-H homepage and it's 4h.okstate.edu, on the left-hand side here, if you go to events and activities, here are the forms and applications. So everything I just talked about is right here. There's even some of the risk management stuff. If we go back over here to parents and volunteers, there's also a risk management button.
Okay.
And this page has been set up for our clubs. So here is all the American Income Life materials. Their little special flow chart today, when I opened it, I was like, ah! But then when I really started looking at it, it is super well done.
Okay.
And it is easy to follow. At first, it's overwhelming, but when you really look at it, it does answer your questions.
Okay.
So here's all the stuff. Here are all the youth forms, the travel and transportation best practices that I talked about. The form number 5 for our non-certified, which is our episodics. Here's your activity and event form, your incident form. Here are 3 little 10-minute lessons you can do in your local club.
Okay.
Here are the chaperone and transportation position descriptions, and here is the OSU certificate of self-insurance right here.
Okay.
So our red button is parents and volunteers, and
I never go there because I'm neither.
So hopefully that's helpful.
Okay. Yeah, I think that is. And I'm definitely kind of thinking of some ideas that we could capture that up for some of our horse folks. So, well, thank you so much, Karla. I think this was great. I don't know if anybody has any questions out there on some of these things that she's talked about. And again, this is all in everybody's best interest to keep children safe and to keep, we do not want our volunteers to get in any sort of legal jeopardy by giving themselves to our kids. So
that's correct.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much, Karla, and enjoy your evening from probably working from home.